Hello, I'm Rebecca Pickram, Public Information Officer for Rockingham County. Today we are joined by Jacob Wingfield and Alex Pryor as we talk about the need for foster parents in Rockingham County. Hey y'all, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me today. Let's talk, like I said, the need of foster parents in Rockingham County. It's something that I feel like is always needed. There can never be too many. So let's start with just how many children do you guys normally have in your care, just to give the folks at home some idea of just how many kids are in our foster system at any given point?
Yeah. So currently we have about 170 kids in care in Rockingham County. It fluctuates, but I want to say typically it's stayed steady around 170 for a while now.
Yeah, the kids entering definitely drastically is greater than the kids leaving. And we do have kids coming into care in great frequency. Sometimes 10 kids a week if it's really bad, sometimes 1 or 2. It really fluctuates.
Absolutely. So we've got about 170 kids in foster care. How many parents do we have that are eligible to be foster parents at any given time?
Eligible or currently foster parents?
Both.
Currently we have around 25 registered foster parents in Rockingham County. Right now we are licensing around 4 or 5 families. With MAP class, we hope to have at least 10 at a time become foster parents. So yeah.
Gotcha. So you mentioned something about licensing and who's eligible and the MAP class. Can you kind of expand on what that is?
So yeah, the MAP class is the Model Approach to Partnership and Parenting. It's a state mandated class. It's a 10-week course that if you want to become a foster parent, you have to take this course. It's completely mandatory. It's what's going to help you learn how to communicate with our agency as well as provide the best care for the children in our care.
Gotcha.
Yeah, the class is taught, we do it twice a year, in the spring and in the fall. Right now, Jacob and I are doing the class. We typically do, like he said, it's 10 weeks, so it'll be 1 3-hour class per week. And it's very laid back. It's not extremely, it's structured, but it allows for people to ask questions. And even if you're not sure that you want to be a foster parent, I feel like it opens up the opportunity to help people figure out if that's what they really want.
Gotcha. Okay, so I'm glad you touched on that because I would like to know, so the people at home know, who can be a foster parent in Rockingham County? Like, what are some of the qualifications? What are the kind of the baseline, hey, we want you to be a foster parent, or I want to be a foster parent. How do I sign up for that?
So you start by contacting our agency, of course.
Okay.
We do have an application online that is readily available. We also have a list of criteria to become a foster parent that is readily available. The general allowances to become a foster parent, you have to be an adult. That means 21 years or older. You have to have a steady income, no criminal background. And like I said, in order to become one, you really have to reach out to our agency first. We'll talk through that process with you because it is a very lengthy process.
Of course. Gotcha.
In addition to not having a criminal background, also not having a CPS history.
Gotcha.
So we also check that.
Gotcha. So, it's not like you can just like walk in and say, hey, like I want to be a foster parent. Like there's obviously checks and balances that go into play to make sure that these kids are in the best possible hands, once, when they go to a foster home.
Yes.
So let's talk about those stages if we can. Okay. So, you guys mentioned when we were talking prior to this meeting, something about an orientation and then that MAP class. So can we talk through the process? Obviously they reach out to y'all, and then so what happens after that initial phone call?
So we periodically will have orientation sessions where we'll pass out flyers, or anyone that's contacted us about, having an interest in being a foster parent. It's kind of just like an information session to answer all the questions, talk a lot about what we've talked to you about as far as the criteria, what our expectations are as an agency, going over MAP classes and things like that. So we conduct those, throughout the year in between MAP classes.
Gotcha. Cool. So once people, we kind of touched on it. So like once you go through that orientation, that kind of welcome informational meeting, that's when they can sign up for the 3-hour, once a week, 10-week course, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
Just want to make sure I get all those facts in there.
It is
Cool.
lengthy. It's kind of hard to follow. That's why we have orientation, so we can kind of talk you through it, kind of hold your hand through the process, because it's not something we just want to kind of drop you off with. It is a lengthy process, and we understand that it is.
Yeah, it's definitely you're taking on a responsibility. When you become a parent, it's not, I'm just going to have a kid and that's going to be what it is.
Yeah.
It's obviously with anything, when you're taking care of another human being, there's a process to it and there's got to be thought. And we want to make sure that these kids that are in our current foster system have the best. You know what I'm saying? So that's awesome. What is the timeline between that signing up, like, hey, I want to be a foster parent, to possibly having a child in your home?
Well, it does vary.
Of course.
But what we like to tell people, if all the paperwork can be back to us, because what the process is, between orientation to MAP class, you do have a lot of paperwork to complete. But if we can get all that paperwork back to us in a timely manner, I would like to say from orientation or MAP class until when you become licensed as a foster parent is around 4 to 6 months.
Okay.
Because you do have to go through the MAP class. We have to have time to get all the paperwork compiled, send off your application to the state, and then we have to, sometimes have a conversation with them. But we like to say 4 to 6 months because we do have to place children in the same time that we're licensing foster parents.
And also, a lot of the criteria to become licensed, those steps are out of our hands as far as getting people fingerprinted from the state. We have to wait for that to come back. You have to be CPR certified, so sometimes people have to wait for those classes to be available. You also have to have a fire inspection of your home, so they kind of have to wait for that. So it just fluctuates. It's a lot of moving parts, and it's not just us. It's state level.
Yeah, clearly I assumed, but I guess not everybody would understand that, you do have to have, it's not just about you as a person being ready to be a parent. It's, is your house safe? Are you prepared properly? Because my idea of being prepared to be a parent could be totally different from somebody else. And that's just kind of how we all are. We're all different. So there's nothing wrong with that, but there's like a guideline and there's a standard. That way every child is safe.
And the MAP class also is not just, it's readily for people to, get all the information that they can about being foster parents and our expectations, but it also gives us a chance to assess the people to make sure that they're in it for the right reasons. Because, there's always going to be people that are not in it for the right reasons.
Absolutely.
So it gives us a chance to really, in depth, get to know these families. We learn about their family history, their childhood, how, if they have kids, how they parent their kids now. We really learn a lot about these families.
Absolutely. And that's just, again, just to circle back, that is just to make sure these kids that are in the foster system are going to a safe and loving home.
Absolutely.
And those foster parents are, like you said, in it for the right reasons. So from that, so you said now there's roughly about 25 foster parents. Obviously that is not a lot compared to the 170 foster kids that we have in the system right now. So what is the likelihood of one foster kid in one home? Or what's the ratio? Would we have 5 or 6? If we can touch on that?
So
maybe.
there's a state cap to how many children can be in a home with licensing. So there's a state cap of 5 children in the home.
Okay.
So
including the biological children of the foster family.
Gotcha.
So oftentimes, as of late, we have had to place sibling groups of children, which makes things more difficult. Oftentimes we do get single children coming into care, but that's kind of where we need the variety of foster parents who have different abilities to help us and help the children in care.
Gotcha. So the worst case scenario is that there's not a situation or there's not a home that a foster child could go to, can we touch on what might happen then, if we're struggling to find enough parents to house these children?
Yeah, so unfortunately, because we have such few numbers, like you said, the 170 versus 25 is not great ratios. What we have to do oftentimes is look outside the agency. There are things called private agencies that we have to go and use that work within the state of North Carolina. But what that does is actually remove children from their own communities. It makes it incredibly difficult for us to find connections for them. Say, if we have a child living in Madison or Reidsville, they're removed and they go to Wake County, they're losing all of their friends, their school community. If they play sports, they're losing that. We see kids in JORTC have to start all over in the program. So it's removing a child from their community, which we're trying to prevent as much as possible.
Absolutely, because it's not only I don't mean to be dramatic, but it's a kind of a traumatic situation being removed from your family home and then being placed in a completely different area if these, foster parents in Rockingham County can't be fulfilled. So absolutely, it's the importance, you touched on, sports teams and JROTC and your friends. I mean, I know growing up and even now, like friends, they're almost like your extended family. So being removed from not only your actual family and your actual home, it's just overall, it's just important to stay in Rockingham County, which is always the goal.
Yeah, and the removal is going to be traumatic, and our goal is to make as little changes as possible to these kids' lives. Like Jacob said, if we have a overwhelming amount of foster families in Rockingham County, which we have the population and we have people that meet that criteria, then, if we have a kid that's removed from a home in Reidsville, okay, we have a foster family in Reidsville, we can place them in that foster family's home. They can still continue to go to the same school and be around the same people, and that is our goal.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because change is inevitable, especially when you're in that super young age to about 18. I mean, that is just so rapidly, constantly changing, even in the healthiest of situations, because you're learning and growing and who you are as a person. But like you said, it's a traumatic experience, and you want to limit that change as much as possible. So sticking in this Rockingham County community, not only is Rockingham County a great place to be, but it's home for all of these kids, and we want to keep them in home or close to home as much as we can. Thank y'all so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. Is there anything that you want to let the people know at home about being a foster parent, or just anything you'd like to add that I might have missed today?
I would like to say that, anytime anybody has any questions, any interest in being a foster parent, please contact the agency. You just call, the direct Rockingham County DSS phone number. They will get you to us, and we will answer any questions that anyone has. And, fostering might not be the right fit for you, but it might be. It never hurts to ask.
Absolutely.
So I feel like we're always available to answer any questions.
Jacob, Alex, thank y'all so much for joining us today. You've shed a lot of light to me, and I hope to y'all at home. Thank y'all again so much. I'm Rebecca Pickram. Thank you so much for joining us today. If you have any questions regarding foster parenting, the classes that are available, orientation, or just any questions about Rockingham County in general, please feel free to reach out to me, 336-589-0967.